Okay, I'm super excited today to be speaking with Erin Giles, a business philanthropy consultant and founder of End Sex Trafficking Day, which is a really big deal. Thank you so much for speaking with us today, Erin.
Yes, thank you for having me. Honored to be here.
Absolutely. So you've got a lot going on right now, and that's one of the reasons I wanted to interview you. Mainly, you've got this major Indiegogo campaign happening. Only 10 days left, raising money for End Sex Trafficking Day. And I know a lot of people that are readers of Over the Republic of Freedom are really, wanting to do similar things, wanting to make big social impact, wanting to start movements, wanting to just really run businesses that combine meaningful work and change in the world. So I thought,
Yeah.
you've got your regular business philanthropy consultant work, and then you've got this big movement happening. There's just so much stuff that we want to hear from you. So I think what I'd love to start off with is kind of talking a little bit about specifically around the campaign of End Sex Trafficking Day. And when you came up with the idea of creating this movement, as I'm sure a lot of people feel, it's a big issue to tackle. So what felt most daunting for you in the beginning?
I would have to say emailing quote unquote big names and asking them for help. I was coming from this place of feeling like an imposter, like what have I accomplished? Feeling like I was going to be rejected or laughed at. And, that was one of my biggest lessons that I learned last year was just reaching out to people and asking for help. And, so many people, and I know Danielle Laporte says it so well, that there are so many people waiting to help you. You just have got to ask and to ask in the right way. And I've learned so much about asking. Myself as well as my clients feel like they can't take something on this big because they're like, oh, I'm just one person. What am I going to accomplish? It's such a big problem. But I mean, think if we all took on our own little or big project, what a big difference that would make. So
Yeah.
one person can certainly make a difference.
Reminded me that one of the things I purchased last year was your Amp Your Ask product, which is
Awesome.
fantastic.
Awesome.
So I think that's really cool because you're going through this process of, learning how to make these big asks and approaching big names so that you can get more widespread coverage, but also then taking what you're learning and rolling it into stuff that can help the rest of us.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's very cool.
Thank
So when you were approaching this, obviously thinking about how to approach big names, et cetera, and then all the other pieces of work involved, and balancing that with trying to maintain a reasonable income with your other side of your business. How did you manage that? Because again, it feels like something when I'm saying it out loud, it sounds really daunting. I'm like, oh my God, I feel if I were to take on something that big, I would be like, well, how do I even have time to still do the stuff that pays the bills?
Yeah. Well, last year, I tell you, I wasn't really making much money at all when I took this on. I'm always openly telling people that literally, like, I had left my day job in June when I started this project, the June before I started this project, and then I started it in January. And 2 weeks after I quit my job to start my business, my husband got laid off. We ended up on food stamps. It was a nightmare. I just thought, hey, once I get my sales page up, my PayPal is just going to be blowing up my email. No, it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
So it really wasn't until I started End Sex Trafficking Day and realized just how many entrepreneurs desire to do something like this with their business that I actually started making money. So this year, I'm a different kind of online entrepreneur. I don't bring in $20,000 a month and, support my entire family. My husband is the major supporter because I'm at home with our daughter every day. So if I have a month where I literally just push my digital products or my self-paced stuff, it's not a big deal. Like, we can make up for it in other ways. And it took me a really long time to be okay with that because I wanted to be like all these people we see, in our Facebook groups or in our blog posts, online, bringing in this much cash. But I had to remember Yes, one, you can do that, but two, you'll probably like kill yourself from stress because you left your day job to be at home with your daughter. So I had to remember that. So not everyone can take on a project like this. And I tell people that. And I'm open about, how we run things with
Yeah.
when this is going. But this year I actually did make the funny decision, yet it's been totally doable. That the day, like I didn't even know I did it. The day I started Rocky Revolution was the same day that the campaign launched, and they're literally both running for 6 weeks and ending on the same day. So, it managed to work out this year, where I did make some money at the same time as the course, as the campaign, and it's worked.
That's
If
awesome.
for people that run courses, they know they can have so much of it taken care of before it even starts, and
Yep.
things will hopefully go smooth.
That's awesome. That's
I hope
awesome.
that answers your question.
For sure. And I think it's really important for people to realize that, there's so much happening behind the scenes. We see other people
Yeah.
doing big things. We see people being either successful with their $10,000 months or starting things like End Sex Trafficking Day. And we make all these assumptions about the reality of it, and like you say, sometimes it means that you're relying on your partner to cover the
Yeah.
majority of the bills so that you can do the work that you need to do. It's not just all kind of, I don't know, pretty and packaged the way we see it on
Yeah.
Facebook, and that's a really
Exactly.
important thing to be upfront about. So for people who are kind of looking at wanting to start something and are telling themselves, well, I'm just one person, or the issue is so big, where do I start? Can you tell us a little bit about how you personally broke down End Sex Trafficking Day into sort of actionable steps? So you knew, okay, I'm going to
Yeah.
start here, and I'm going to move on to this, and this is how I'm going to try to tackle this.
Well, first off, I will say that the only way to quiet that negative chatter of I'm only one person and blah, blah, blah is just to start taking action, bottom line. So once you've decided that you're going to take action, and perhaps you commit to, maybe sitting down for 15 minutes a week and starting to plan stuff, I'm sure like setting accountability times for yourself, or talking to someone else, maybe a group or a mentor about it, is always going to hold you accountable and get you closer to reaching your goal. For me, obviously the first step was me like watching the Nefarious documentary and realizing what the cause was that I was going to be super passionate about and do something about. And literally, it probably took about 3 months before I even realized what I wanted to do. And it sort of just popped into my head one day, like, oh yeah, I can do that. I knew I didn't have tons of money to give, and that's why I started something, is because I was pretty ticked off about that. So as much as my business wasn't doing particularly great at that time, remember I said I was doing something totally different. I realized I was miraculously making all these great online contacts pretty much just through Twitter. So that's how I began. I made a list of writers. I knew the project I wanted to do, so it's way easier for a lot of people who have literally no idea what they want to do. But, if you look at your resources, your wisdom, your skills, if you look at those three things and, figure out, okay, what could I use to fuel this project? It doesn't have to be money. So, I got started, made a list of people that I wanted to invite to write for a book that I was originally thinking was going to be a digital book, and wrote an ask email and just began sending it out like every single day to a lot of people. And I swear it took like 3 months to get 60 people. It was a really long time. But, once I got people, like Seth Godin and Danielle Laporte, like all these people who I never dreamed I'd even be emailing, like saying yes, I was just like, oh my God, this is actually coming together. It was amazing. So, and really after that, I could have had this big elaborate plan and timeline, but things sort of, created a timeline on their own. I talked to Erica Learmark about talking to a publisher, and once I talked to the publisher, then I really had dates that I had to get things done by, and things just sort of flowed from there. It was crazy.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And I love how it's like, you started sort of with that step of reaching out and connecting with people around this theme.
Yeah.
And it was like once other people were involved, it kind of took on this,
Mm-hmm.
motion of its own. And then it's like, oh, okay. And then it's like
Yeah.
prioritizing almost next steps, right? And
Yeah,
it
definitely.
says so much about the importance of not just sitting there all by yourself and thinking, how am I going to make this happen? And as
Yeah.
you say, like looking at all your resources, all your human resources, and going, okay,
Yeah.
wait a second, how can I get everyone else excited and we can make this happen?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I had so many people that were writers for the book that ended up like stepping up and being like, to their audience, hey, I have 5 coaching spots available that I've retired. If you give $250 to, the campaign, it's yours. I mean, I had so many people just stepping up and doing that, and it was just rocking my world last year. Which, of course, this year it's totally different. And I can go into why I feel like last year was a failure if you want me to. Although I know it's not a failure now, but I used to think it was a failure.
Yeah, well, I actually, that's a really interesting point, and I'd love if you could give us kind of a Coles Notes version of why you thought it was a failure, because I know that, that's something a lot of people struggle with, seeing something not happen exactly the way they expected, and then it's just like so demotivating. So
Yes.
maybe give us the little Coles Notes version of why did it feel like a failure? Why does it no longer feel like a failure?
Well, I wanted to raise X amount of dollars with the sales of the book on N6 Trafficking Day last year, and bottom line, it didn't happen. Teeny tiny fraction of that money was raised. So, for months I didn't want to talk about it. Like, my husband finally called me out and was like, oh my God, you haven't talked about it. You have to say something online, like bring it up. So I finally wrote a blog post, let people know why I was disappointed, why I felt like it was a failure, but yet asked people to basically tell me if it educated them or inspired them in the blog post, like in the comments. And I had like record number of comments. It was amazing. So many people just, that hadn't even heard of sex trafficking or bought 10 books and took it to their public library. I mean, there was all these things that just this huge domino effect that had happened because of it. So this year I was like, okay, we're not going to raise $10,000 to publish a book. We're going to attempt to raise $25,000 and send 5K to 5 nonprofits that are working in different areas. So prevention, awareness, rescue, and recovery for sex trafficking. And with so many people not realizing that nearly 30 million people are enslaved, it helps them see, like, A, where the money's going to what nonprofit, B, what that nonprofit is going to do with the $5,000, which of course I won't talk about. It's all on the page. And C, just really know that they're being a key to freedom just by giving $5, $10, whatever. So yes, that's what we're doing this year, and that's why I thought it was a failure. But I'm okay with it now.
That's really, really cool. I love that. And I think like it's inevitability, right? And no matter what, whether you're doing the type of business or movement that you're doing or any other type of business, we're all going to launch things that don't go according to plan, or that all we hear is crickets. And what can you do? You kind of take from it what you can, make the most of it. And how wonderful that you were able to talk to your audience and say, like, what did you take away from this? And there was all this unseen amazing, right?
It was awesome. Yeah, it was awesome. And that's when I realized, it's not all about the money. I mean, I could have inspired somebody who could do something like start another Tom's or something. Like, you never know what you inspire someone to do. And that's how I had to look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's really cool. Well, you've shared so many great sort of tips and ideas around how to not be freaked out by taking on something big. But if there was sort of a bottom line piece of wisdom that you could give anyone who's really at the starting point, who's right out of the gates, what would that piece of advice be?
You're never going to feel ready. So just start. Bottom line.
Just start.
You're
take
never
action.
Going to feel ready. Your website's never going to feel amazing enough. Your Twitter follower. I mean, all those little things we compare ourselves with other entrepreneurs about. Like, it's never going to feel like the right time. So just start taking action.
Cool. That's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of this with us today.
So welcome.
I'm going to put links below to both of your sites, the Indiegogo campaign and your primary website as well, so that people can go and find you, and a link to your Twitter as well. And if anyone has any questions for Erin in the comments, please leave them.
Yes,
and hopefully, Erin, you can hop back in. And
I, of course, will. Awesome.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Heather.